We're good. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this first power hour on mystery shopping and the value that it might bring to members of the NAJ and the JBN. Just to introduce myself, my name's Steve Ennis. I'm the facilitator for the JBN, and I'm joined this morning by Stuart Plant from Insight6, a specialist organisation who measure the customer service experience and the customer service of stores within the retail jewellery sector and all other retail sectors as well. Now, for the purpose of this webinar, what we'd like to do is we're going to present the case for measuring the customer service, customer experience in your stores. Stuart's going to share his insights and experience of why that can make a tremendous difference for your business. And we're going to have a Q&A section at the end of the call, at the end of the webinar. So there'll be loads of opportunity for you to ask questions. However, if there is a question that's really pertinent that you can't wait to the end, put the hand up, or if you see the top of the page on the webinar, raise the hand and we'll come to that question. But if the question can wait, if you could put it into the chat at the end of the call, we'll come to that. This call is being recorded and will be available on the NAJ platform for those who weren't able to join us live. But we're very grateful to have you in attendance this morning. So I'm going to turn to Stuart and I'm going to invite the question. Why is it so important, Stuart, that we have within the retail sector the means to be able to measure the customer service that the customers might enjoy in all of the stores throughout the country and the customer experience that they encounter? And what is the difference between the two?
Thank you, Steve. It's an absolute pleasure to join you all. And yeah, the difference between customer service and customer experience, people will confuse the two generally. And one, I always say, customer service is essentially quite transactional. It's the whole process of handing something to somebody and making sure that they've collected the goods, for example. Experience is so much more. It's essentially how you make people feel. And it's those emotions that I think tie customers to a business. And if you are essentially making people feel special and you are treating them with respect, engaging with them, it's so different to actually just a transactional experience. We've all been into those coffee shops, for example, where you go up and you get the coffee and you go to the end of the counter. And actually, that's great, that's fine, you've got your cup of coffee, but the person that smiles at you, gets to know about you, says you're having a good day, it makes that whole experience so much better.
Yeah, cool. And I've worked in retail for 40 years, and in every single environment in which I've worked, we've always measured the customer service that customers might enjoy and the customer experience. And the parallel of an environment where we can create a good customer experience is always matched by an improvement in turnover, improvement in loyalty, and an improvement in advocacy and retained customers. So the commercial imperative for doing this is tremendously important. So are there any examples from your experience, Stuart, of why not only is it important to create a good environment, but the benefits a business might enjoy for doing so?
Absolutely. And throughout my career, I've sort of been involved in measurement of experience, measurement of service as well. So if I may, I used to work in retail, sort of running my own sort of furniture business. I've worked in the pub industry for far more years than I care to remember. And the one thing that I always used to do when you become a little bit detached sometimes, you're not always as a business owner or somebody when you've got operators working in your team, you're not always at the coalface. You can't always engage and communicate with your customer. So it was absolutely vital that, for example, in the pub industry, that we had an authentic temperature check of exactly what people thought of our pubs, our restaurants as such. And the one thing that used to enlighten me was that we'd get reports back, and it would be somebody who would be going in and having a meal and an experience as such. And it's people in my team would question the fact that the customer was challenging through a mystery customer report, challenging the fact that the signage was difficult to read, or it was difficult to find where to go to the toilets, etc. And we just spent fortunes actually on signage schemes within a big refurbishment, and we thought it was brilliant. But I used to say to the team, well, actually, this is your customer telling you that what we have done isn't actually as obvious as we thought it was. And that's the benefit really of using sort of feedback and having it measured, is the fact that people can sense check exactly sort of what it's like to be a customer, and it's independent as well at the same time.
Yeah, and again, something really important to share with the audience today is the attitude of a mystery shopper coming into a store. It's really important to understand that they're not there to find a member of staff doing something wrong. They're there explicitly to allow good service to wash over them. So the brief to any mystery shopper going into a store is allow the staff to excel, allow the staff to shine, and let the service excellence be part of what you experience. So where I've encountered misgivings in the past with regards to mystery shop programs, it's this nervousness around the fact that the mystery shopper might be seeking to catch a fault. It's 100% the opposite. The brief to the mystery shoppers is to allow good service to be provided and be open to that. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, 100%. I mean, fundamentally, we want people to be looking forward to receiving reports, because we try to highlight all the while what good looks like, what good practice is all about, because we find that when people get the report and they see their name is in lights, that their colleagues actually want a piece of that action as well. They, you know, when they are sort of in the store on the next occasion, or they pick the phone up, you know, they want to deliver service just like that person has as well. So it kind of is a self-fulfilling sort of prophecy as such after a bit. And we look on, we mystery shop and work with organisations across the UK in lots of different sectors. Retail is one of our priorities. Hospitality is a huge one, and leisure. So what we do, we always find that there is certain hesitancy with any person stepping into sort of using sort of mystery shopping. But what we try and get across to people, and they see it after a bit, is that we try to be a critical friend with people. We are there to point out the good bits, but we're also there to point out what improvements are there to be had. And that's really quite key, is to be able to sort of build into any report exactly sort of what you can do better that would add to the experience, and also add to more money in the till, you know, which at the end of the day is why we do what we do. A lot of people do think mystery shopping can be a bit fluffy, but there's a hard commercial edge, and we'll probably get to that in a little while. That there are synergies between improving customer satisfaction and knowing that you're doing it, and you'll find that then your revenue will increase sort of not at the same rate, but not far off as well, for various reports out there.
So indeed, we will come back to that point of the commercial difference that this makes. And the commercial opportunity is born of moving those customers who may visit your store, whose experience is such that when they leave, their emotional is in a neutral state. They're just passive. The service they received was okay, but if I were to speak to them 20 minutes after they've left the store, the reality is they can't recall too much of the experience that they had. So nobody was upset by the visit, but they certainly didn't get engaged or feel compelled to purchase. So this, I would like everybody on the call and outside of this call who might be watching it on record, to think about your audience in three places. Two of them are really easy to identify. The customer that's really upset by a poor experience is one that stands out in your mind's eye, because they make it known, they get on social media and they make a fuss. So the one who's had a terrible experience, who really stands out, fortunately, they're few and far between, but they do occur, and they're the ones you notice, and you try and remedy those as you can. At the other side of that experience, there are those who are your loyal, customers and your advocates. They're people who love the service they get when visiting your store. They tell others about it. That's really crucial because their word of mouth is fantastic and they are loyal, trusted friends. So you've worked hard to garner that loyalty. But it's the middle tranche that the mystery shopping program is really seeking to address. That is those customers who come to your store who leave in a passive state. And what we're trying to do through a mystery shop program is move those people from that passivity into loyalty and advocacy. And this is where the mystery shop program can really help. It can identify those elements within the customer journey that might take somebody from that place of passivity. And the member of staff does something markedly different that creates that emotional connection that moves them into advocacy, that moves them into purchase, that moves them into loyalty and has them coming back again. So you talked about the commercial benefit there. If I were a store and I had a range of scores, say 70% from a program of visits that you might conduct, and over the year, I improved that from 70% to 85%. So I moved the dial by 15%. What evidence is there that that's going to make a marked difference on my revenue and turnover? What are the kind of outcomes that I might expect to get from a 15% improvement in the mystery shop score?
Well, there are direct sort of synergies between customer satisfaction improvement and revenue improvement. McKinsey is well known with their research, where I think you can see something like with a 15% increase in customer satisfaction, that could lead to a 10% increase in revenue, for example. You know, these numbers aren't absolutely set in stone, but they give you a very good example of where, you know, the metrics can help you moving forward, especially if it's measured. You know, I've got colleagues who, you know, work in different sectors and industry, and one of the biggest metrics that they go on is customer satisfaction, because they know if they can raise that and get that level and that bar up there, that their revenue as well will grow at the same time. So it's hugely important. And the one thing that, you know, I will touch on as well regarding sort of mystery shopping is that a lot of people have traditionally always thought that, well, actually, it's about somebody just coming into a premises, into a store, and asking a couple of questions, and you get a report on it. But the customer journey is now so varied and so different compared to years ago, and the touch points are so many that it isn't just about visiting a store. It's so many more different touch points that can actually make or break somebody's experience with you. For example, we mystery shopped the jeweler, the retailer of the year at the NAJ Awards last year, and traditionally it was always measure the in-store experience. We were invited to actually sort of take over that sort of particular sort of assessment. And the one or two things that we've added are different touch points. So, for example, before anybody has probably decided that they may want to pay a visit to a store, they may well look online. They may well drop you an email. They may well pick the phone up. So how you respond to those particular touch points, those inquiries, can make a break whether somebody actually visits. So going back to your point about passivity, is actually, it's really important that you have to delight people and give quality consistency at every touch point nowadays. And to measure in store is brilliant, but you have to have it, the full picture, and that's what mystery shopping can do. It can give you that independent, authentic feedback on all of those particular touch points.
Yeah. So to summarise, why this programme might be valuable to anybody wishing to participate is it's aimed at those customers who have a passive experience in store, and it's moving them into that loyal advocacy space where they become a word of mouth recommender for your business. And the commercial imperative behind that is that there's loads of evidence in mystery shopping of the commercial impact it makes. And if you are to move the dial on a mystery shop score by about 15%, you can anticipate broadly about a 10% improvement in revenue. Now, if any of the businesses on this call were to experience a 10% improvement in their performance this year, you'd probably regard that as a good year. So this is something that can massively underpin your growth ambitions in your business. So we've explained the reason why you might do it. So now what we're going to do in the next 5 to 10 minutes is look at how this is done. So we've got it through 3 different metrics. We've got an in-store visit, we've got an online mystery shop through your website and inquiry, and a combination of either an email or a telephone inquiry. And we measure the customer service that is provided in those 3 touch points and also the customer experience. So could you take us through, Stuart, each of those methodologies and how you do it and what the recipient of the report might expect to see?
Sure. So the first thing I really want to say is that feedback is fantastic. If you get any feedback, that's great. But the type of feedback you get is so important. So a number of people have got really good Google reviews, and I see lots of businesses with excellent Google reviews, which is brilliant because that improves perception and draws people into you. However, that doesn't tell the whole story about people's feelings and their experience. And that passive group of people probably will not even bother going online. So you never get to hear about them, and they'll disappear out of your store and you'll never see them again. So actually, it's really, really important that we have measured feedback, and that's what mystery shopping is. It's measurement. Google reviews will give you a number, so 4.8 out of 5, brilliant, okay, fantastic. But what does that really tell me? What are the things that people really like? What are the improvements, and how frequently are your team following up on inquiries? We work in, as I say, in many other sectors, and one of the biggest blockers for growth is people not returning calls, people not returning emails, people not doing what they say they're going to do, and not following up on an inquiry. And I ran a furniture business many, many years ago, and apologies for harking back into the dark old days of just around when the internet was kicking off. But one thing that always stuck with me, I had a guy who essentially was the assistant manager in the store, and he was as proud as punch one day. He came to me and says, I had a guy that came in, he wanted to buy this furniture for £1,000. He wanted 15% off. And I stood my ground and I let him go. I said, no, that's not what we're about. I said, did you take his details? No. So essentially, you've left £1,000 walk out the door. Now, I'm not saying that what the spirit of what you did wasn't good. However, commercially, we've let £300-400 worth of profit go. And we haven't actually taken anything at this stage on the day. So what mystery shopping is all about, it measures behaviour of the team as well. And everybody has got sort of different ways of working. But mystery shopping essentially will measure fundamentals about how the team engages, how they respond, for example, to an email. So let's take them in order. So, for example, people will go on your website and they'll browse and they'll like what they see, and they'll see a particular item and they'll say, okay, tell me more about this particular ring. Is it ethically sourced, for example? And they're waiting for a response. They've sent that email at 10:30 of an evening when you're closed, obviously, and they're expecting somebody to come in the following day. And we always say, well, that's the golden hour, to get back to people within 1 to 2 hours. You've got 9 times more chance of winning that business if you show you're keen and you get back within that sort of golden hour. And then they're waiting, and they don't hear anything for a day. They don't hear anything for 2 days. So actually, what does that person feel? They feel actually that you don't care, that actually it's probably worth going elsewhere and looking at other people that are on my short list. So versus somebody that's come back within the first hour of the following working day, who has said, hi, thank you so much for your inquiry. My name is, we'd love to come and visit, see you in person, if possible. I'm available on these particular days. Can I arrange for you to come in? Etc., etc. Warm regards. It's a whole different perspective. So we measure the way that people respond. The personalisation is so important. Phone call.
Can I just check
Sorry, yes.
for the audience? So on such a report, is there a distinction between the service that is provided and the experience that is felt?
Yes.
So how does that represent itself in terms of a score and how that's made up? So there's the journey that they go through.
Sure.
So it's measured over a certain set period of time, and there's scoring occasions. Correct. So just give the audience an illustration of what that might be.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we use phone call for an example, as we go on to the next one, we will measure sort of the hard facts about when somebody actually did pick the phone up to return the call. If it was an out of hours voicemail that was left, there'll be that metric. There will be softer metrics, which is the customer experience, which will be about, did they find out your name? Did they use it? Did they introduce themselves in the store professionally? Was their tone warm? Did they answer the phone with a smile? Now that may sound odd, but we've all seen or had engagement with people where it's, hi, how are you? Or somebody who's like, hi, my name is, and it's totally different. So those, and we actually then have KPIs that are built into the reports as well. So you will see by section and by journey, what happened, what was our score, but most importantly, what was the comments and how somebody felt. But then alongside that, you've then got the KPIs, which is customer service, sales, and presentation. If we work independently with people, and a lot of people who start off on programs go on to bigger programs because we provide training support, journey mapping, real-time feedback, is what we tend to do then is weave in their own KPIs. So you may have your own sort of personal requirements, and you can add in some of the key questions at the same time. So we have lots of flex if we do things sort of over and above with individual people. And then the third one is the in-store visit. And this is kind of why we separate, is because people tend to have made a choice to come into your store. And then what they're looking for is so broad, it's so wide, but fundamentally what we measure is how were they greeted? What was their first impression? Because that will make or break whether they really want to go and find out more. If people keep them waiting, then that's a bit of a, sort of a cross. But then if people engage with them, walk towards them, smile, open body language, greet them, take them into the store, make them feel welcome and special, then that's absolutely sort of the experience bit that we measure. And with each of these questions, we'll weight them as well on importance, because some, quite simply more important than others. The hard stuff is about, were contact details taken? Did somebody follow up? Those are the things that will actually eventually, as well as being warm and fuzzy, elevate your business and your turnover. If you have a program where you're measuring those sort of metrics, then you're on the way to success.
So Insight6 have a methodology where once the report is conducted, the results of the report are sent back to the owner of the business. And then there's a specific material guidance provided in terms of what you can do with that information and how you might improve the experience that is given in store. And you use a methodology, which I'm just going to quote here, is to inspire, to identify the opportunities, to illustrate the differences, to instruct and inform the staff to improve the service. So 6 eyes there. Could you give us a meaningful sort of example of, from the perspective of the store owner, so that they can use the report as evidence, as a development tool and a reinforcement tool of what they see that's good. So in the instance of a fantastic score, it's a chance to celebrate and reinforce the behaviours that have been exhibited. In a score which is maybe average, there's some learning opportunities. So take us through those 6 eyes, if you will, Stuart, and talk about the Insight6 methodology in terms of delivering that improvement.
Yeah, sure. So I'll probably just take a little step back first, if I may, Steve, that with regards to the actual mystery shoppers within our team, we are a UK-wide organisation. So I appreciate that many of you are sort of around the UK and Ireland, and we have people who are specific sort of operators in that area who will manage a team of researchers. So we can give you that kind of that local voice, that local person who can come in and sort of obviously carry out that visit, that experience, or make that inquiry. That's really important. So what we have are kind of these 6 eyes, and if we are to work with people on a program, one of the very first things we do, you mentioned Inspire, is to sit down with people and actually understand what their customer experience vision is. And I always say to people, so what do you want people to feel when they leave your store and they've finished engaging with you and they bought a product? Because then we need to work back from there. Because if you haven't got a customer experience strategy, you're not really going to know how you're making people feel and if you're succeeding or not. And that is really important. And within that, I always say to people, so what's your mission? So actually our mission could be, we want to win an award of that. And we want to be known as the best jeweler in this given area. And we want to have, we might want to get 5 out of 5 on Google. So because at the moment we're at 3.8 and it's not really as good as I want. Or we want our team to feel as though they are the most engaged that they've ever been. Because fundamentally, a great customer experience starts with a great employee experience, and your team have to be motivated to do that. So we work with organisations to help them on that side of it as well, with employee engagement. But fundamentally, the Inspire bit is setting out what kind of everything looks like and where you want to get to and what you want to achieve. We then agree a baseline. And this baseline is something that we'll get to shortly. And we say, right, okay, let's find out what reality looks like. So that involves doing a set number of experiences, mystery inquiries, so that we can find out sort of what the issues potentially are. Once we find out the issues and you see what actually you're brilliant at, and then you see, well, we're not so good at this, and these are the opportunities, and this is what the team aren't doing or delivering, we can then start to go and step into illustrate mode. Illustrate is, for example, we can do customer journey mapping. And that's one of the most powerful elements of managing customer experience. You can do little bits of this yourselves, but it's fundamentally looking at an element of the customer journey and getting your team in the room. And you're getting post-it notes up there, and it's really interactive and it's great fun. And what it does, it makes people think not only what is happening at each part of this stage of this journey. So the journey could be what happens when somebody picks the phone up and they leave a message through to us phoning back. And actually it doesn't sound a lot, but there's a lot there that can happen. So actually you look at how easy was it from a process point of view for our team, but most importantly beneath that, what's the customer thinking and feeling at all of those stages? And we use things like personas. So, what would a typical customer sort of be thinking and feeling who maybe coming into shop for their Ruby wedding anniversary, that kind of thing, and sort of, what's their sort of way of, from a technology point of view of operating, or maybe they're not as technologically savvy as their maybe grandchildren, children as well. And you start to think about what people are experiencing. And what that does then, it identifies gaps in that customer journey. And once you know what your gaps are, you can close them. And you can actually stop things and opportunities slipping through the cracks. Yeah. So once we then have got a list of improvements and gaps and all of this, you can work on processes yourselves. We also can support with engagement, learning and development programs. So we help people with helping their team to build better rapport, ask better questions, have a process themselves about following up, knowing how to not treat every customer the same, but just knowing when to sort of go forward or step back a little bit, all really important things as well. We also do coaching and mentoring as well. If people have got more than one store, sometimes a different voice is really helpful to be able to support. Then once you've done that, it's really important then to measure what's the change. So are we then 15% further forward in your mystery shopper score? Because then if you are, and you're doing, your team are doing better things, you're actually then delivering, and hopefully that's seeing it in the till and making much more money.
And again, to the audience, I'm sure a number of you may currently use a mystery shop program, or you've used them in the past. The thing about Insight6 is they're not there to create a vanity for a business owner where everybody scores 100% and everybody's made to feel good. What they want to do is just create a scoring metric that's absolutely real and authentic. And the score is necessarily not that important. It's the observation of what the learning opportunities are and what the strengths are that you might reinforce. That's where the value is. So my encouragement to anybody who might participate in what we're going to propose as a trial is don't worry overly about the score. When you get a report back, understand what the report is sharing with you and identify those opportunities where there may be some material steps that you can do to train and develop your staff that can make a tangible difference to the experience your customer gets. Then to revisit that with a further report, you can then baseline against where you were. So what we're proposing going forward is for the members of the JBN, we're looking to get, of which there are 40 different businesses involved in that group. We'd love to run a trial where all 40 were within the program. Now we get the reports back, one mystery shop for the in-store, the online experience and the telephone thing, a collated score, 3 individual scores and an overall average. And then a kind of a league standing thing. It wouldn't be, it would be anonymous, but you would know where you stand in that league. If you're in the top 5, there's a reason to celebrate with your teams. If you're outside of the top 5, there's probably an opportunity for your business to be able to improve in one way or another. So there's 2 things that might come out of this initiative. One is benchmarking yourself for where you are, so that if you do a future program, if your average score is 60, right guys, an objective in the year ahead is to move to 75% and the value that that will bring. Or the other one is to benchmark yourself anonymously versus 40 different peers. Now, if you're an NAJ member and you want to get involved in such a program, you can do so by joining the JBN. I'd be happy to have a conversation with anybody to that effect. Or you can employ the services of Insight6 individually and have a program of your own where you can benchmark yourself and then set about improving your score from there. So that's the opportunity we're setting out. To the JBN members, we've kind of a one-time initiative offer here where kicking off in the month of March through April, we would conduct all of the visits across a sort of an 8-week window. Is that right? So in the months of March and April, we carry out this initiative with the participants who wish to get involved. It would cost £375 plus VAT. And what you get is 1 store visit, 1 online inquiry, 1 telephone or email inquiry, 3 reports with the score, setting out what was good, what the opportunity to improve is, and then a possible 30-minute consultation call with Stuart and his colleagues from Insight6 nationwide, who would give a 30-minute diagnostic call back to the business owner, taking you through each of the reports and identifying the opportunities to improve. So as we go back to the start of the call, what we identified was service is absolutely fundamental to the success of your business. Service is the thing that you can shape and control the most within your teams. So within the JBN last year, the 40 businesses enjoyed growth of 15% across the group. It's very much our ambition that this year we repeat that exercise or make it even better. So as a cornerstone to that opportunity, we've got to make sure that the service experience being delivered through those businesses is one that we can baseline and measure, and then set about creating the improvements where opportunities exist. So that's the proposition. Is there anything further that you'd like to add to that? Sure.
If I may, thanks, Steve. We work with other jewellery retail businesses around the UK. And what was quite enlightening is that we've seen some feedback fairly recently as well that just highlights the gaps and the opportunities. And for example, we've seen that the best scoring is when somebody walks into a store. After that, it drops. Email, web inquiries are below that, and then quite a way below that are phone inquiries. So we're finding that people are actually providing quite a good experience in store, but it is actually dropping off at other parts of that journey. And those touch points, as I mentioned at the very start, email and phone, take place often before people have even decided that they'll go into the store. So yeah, I think that you can then start to then see, well, actually, if I'm moving my percentages up and actually underpinning that are the comments, the behaviours that our team are and mystery shoppers are absolutely sort of allowed, and we want them and we encourage them to actually put in how they felt. So you can see this is how somebody felt at this point in time, which is absolutely quite critical then to driving what improvements can take place in a store. I just want to kind of probably just put something else out there that, again, I go back to when I had a retail business myself. I looked at my team and when they were delivering sort of customer service, customer experience, and I kind of just did a bit of a matrix of who did what, who was the best performers, and I kind of just stood back and sort of looked at how they engage with people. And I found, and I came up with a bit of a phrase at the time, that the best people who consistently had the better sort of sales were the ones that I would call order makers. What do I mean by order maker? Well, essentially, they were people that took the time to engage, personalise the conversations, to follow up and build rapport. They got to know the people's names, and it was, you know, fun. It was and people for me that are order makers are quite gregarious, they're fairly outgoing, but they are quite disciplined. There are certain traits. And I look back then at the ones that were underperforming, and they were essentially people that were just called order takers. That I like it or not, I call them kind of vending machines with arms and legs, because you put the money in and out pots, you know, they can, and it was very transactional. Order makers are what essentially propels a business forward. And I made a mission in my head of surrounding myself with order makers rather than order takers, because they are the people that will grab the business, be your best ambassadors. And if you do a little bit of an assessment of your team, it'd be interesting to know how many people you put in the pot of order takers to order makers.
Very good. Right. Thank you so much for your attention so far. What we'd like to do now for the remainder of the call is open the floor to any questions that we might be in a position to answer for you. So, Adam, a question at 10:10. Hello, is it good, bad, or something else practice to share the brief to your mystery shoppers with a shops team member so you know what's expected? Oh, yeah.
Would you like me to answer?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Thanks for your question, Adam. Great question. I always would suggest that it's great to be open and transparent with people, simply because the team can't turn around and say you're trying to trip me up. It's very much around we're having this take place to find out, you know, how we are as a business collectively, not individually. So I would probably suggest you don't need to probably explain totally at the start what the brief is all about, but they are measuring how they feel, which is quite important. So I think, I do agree that it's worth certainly trying to have that kind of level of briefing. One thing that I would add as well is that with the phone calls, we can sometimes record them. And that is illuminating, and it's great. You get access to a portal so that you get your reports on there, and you can actually click on the audio files and listen back. It's great for training. You know, people can see straight away how they kind of impacted on somebody, what they did. And we have lots of our clients who use that as a really good way to improve performance with people as well. From a buying point of view, I would always advise never share the report, never send a report by email. Always take the report in, look at it yourself, and provide thought through feedback, because actually it can be very personal. We do name people in the reports. I always say, put people up in lights and then take people to one side where there's learning and development, and to have that coaching conversation to help them really. I think that really is very important.
Yeah. And again, I've had many years of experience of working with mystery shop programs, and I've encountered millions of occasions where the staff member says, that's the mystery shopper, so I'm going to turn it on. Well, actually, if that's the approach being taken, it's the wrong approach. The approach that I'd encourage everybody to try and instill in their teams is, let's understand what the program brief is, and let's deliver that to every single customer who comes in the store. Because if we do it from everybody from 9 o'clock in the morning till 5:30 at night, and we're not thinking about the mystery shopper, but thinking about the delivery of a great service experience, your business will benefit from that without a doubt. Hugh, you have your hand up. Could you unmute and ask us the question, Hugh?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how in-depth the in-store visit might be, because obviously with ourselves, it might be just a quick inquiry, 10-minute transaction, or it could be a full-on sit-down bespoke consultation that might take half an hour or an hour. So how in-depth might your visits be?
They could be, quite in-depth. I mean, what we're trying to do is ensure that we give you as much feedback as possible, Hugh. We're not here to just walk in, just browse and expect your team to actually provide everything. We will provide a brief to the researchers that is basically enabling them to ask some good questions. And we often will give a list, so it looks authentic and people can choose what they're comfortable with. And what we try to do is sort of enable the team to be able to take somebody on a journey with that inquiry, to be able to sort of say, right, let me showcase this, let me show you that, and then give them an opportunity to take the person's details, and then an opportunity to follow up. Separate to this, you can have another phase or step to that process, which can be the purchasing and maybe sale or return, which is additional to this. But I think we've spoken in depth, myself and Steve, and I think there are so many gaps and opportunities just in handling an inquiry that we just want to kind of focus on that to start with, and then move forward after that. Does that answer, Hugh, or have you got any other question around that?
Yeah, effectively, Hugh, where we can go is, again, reminding ourselves that the brief on the mystery shopper's remit is to allow the member of staff to take them as far through the journey as is possible, almost to the point of purchase. And as Stuart mentioned, Insight6 do offer the beyond purchase experience as well. But we're not thinking of that just for the initial trial, but you could have an instance where the shopper may be in the store for up to 30 minutes, where they're taken right through a journey, right to the point of transaction, dependent on the exchange they have with the member of staff. But that's a great question. Thanks, you. Any other questions?
I think we've got one there.
So are there differences in what, inverted commas, luxury retailers are asking for versus your standard reporting questions?
Yeah, another great question. So we have reports, again, sort of probably over and above the basic ones that we're looking to do in this particular program, that actually can focus on luxury purchases as well. So I think we've kind of measured Rolex experience, with other businesses as well. So yeah, we can adapt reports with people over and above the baseline to ensure that what we're doing is measuring what their business is all about. I mean, what I would say is that the the big things that we look to measure, which is about engagement, rapport build, it doesn't necessarily matter what the product is. It's about how special you're making people feel. But from a technical point of view, then if you want to add a few other things in eventually, then absolutely, that's how we kind of bespoke stuff when we have individual programs with people moving forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Stuart. Any other questions? No. Okay. Well, to summarise, thank you so much for joining today's call. What we're going to do is place this video on the NAJ platform. There's an invitation to all NAJ members and JBN to participate in the trial. We're going to give people until the 6th of March to identify if they'd wish to participate. Thereafter, we'll do the programme between the months March and April. And we will share the findings back with the participants by the end of April, and hope that this might become something we do as an becomes business as usual, especially for the JBN membership. To the NAJ members on the call who'd like to know more about the JBN, feel free to give me a call. My details will be put into the chat. And likewise, if you'd like to learn more about the Insight6 programs that are available, Stuart's details will be made known to one and all. So thank you all for joining. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Steve,
for sharing with us your knowledge, and we wish you all a good day. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.